These are questions from critics that we're bringing to you, and it's going to be pretty fair on both sides. We're going to start with Mr. Sansa. One of the biggest attacks that Congressman Landsman has leveled against you is that you don't live in the district. Why choose to run for a district that you don't live in? Why should voters trust you to know the issues of the district that you want to represent?
Yeah, first and foremost, my opponent knows full well that I entered into this race when there wasn't any congressional district line finalized before the Ohio Supreme Court. He knows that, and suddenly here I am just right on that boundary's edge, and it's not a legal requirement for a congressional candidate to live in the district. Here's the thing. I would have never entered into this race had my opponent been doing his job for the last 20 months. But the fact is that instead we've seen a problem creator through his policy positions, folks. Again, it comes down to how he's voted or failed to vote the right way when it comes to fixing our broken economy, securing our southern border, restoring the integrity and confidence in our elected officials. If that was done, I would have perfectly stayed home and continued to be the father and the husband I am and continued to be out there serving my community as a prosecutor. But instead, what you saw here tonight is, again, someone that has a record that he is trying to hide from, not hide on. Instead, it'd be very easy for you, the American people, to actually hear from the current representative, that is how I voted, here is why I voted, and that's why it was in the best interest of the American people. Instead, he just flat out blanket statement says it was a lie, and that's not going to fly. We're going to hold him accountable tonight.
Here's a criticism that he has about you and others as well. I want you to answer to it. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. The criticism, the number one criticism is not that he doesn't live in the district. It's a problem. The number one criticism is that he supports these national bans on abortion with no exception.
True.
He is committed to the Ohio right to life. You can find the questionnaire. No abortion anywhere, no exceptions for the life of the mother, rape, incest. These federal bans are bad for people. They're harmful. People have died because of these bans. That is the criticism, and the fact that he believes that corporate investors, not the middle class, should come first.
Let me address that.
I will say the one thing we do agree on, because he doesn't live in the district, is that he won't be on the ballot, meaning that neither one of us will vote for him.
30 seconds, and then we're moving on.
Yeah, let me address this issue here, because again, trying to cast ad hominem attacks. Here's the thing on this abortion. It's been hyper-politicized and hyper-polarized. I want to make something abundantly clear to people here tonight, is that I'm not going to hide the fact that I consider myself pro-life. As a father of 4 kids, one who lost a 5th child in a miscarriage, very personal to me. But 3 things are true. This is a state issue, not a federal issue. The reversal of Roe v. Wade made that very clear. It's to the people of Ohio. Number 2, we have to recognize the 3 exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. Number 3, the majority of Americans, me included, are not for extreme. My opponent is abortion on demand up until 40 weeks.
No one knows what abortion on demand is.
Votes no on the Common Sense Born Alive Act that would have made it a doctor's duty to save the life of a child born alive in the course of a failed abortion. He votes no.
Sorry, we have 10 minutes left, and you need to get closings in, but I need to ask you a question from critics. He brought it up earlier. Newsweek reported last month that you were late in disclosing more than 80 trades of shares in companies like Uber and Microsoft and Apple. Trust in Congress, as we all know, looking at the polls, is already low. A lot of critics tie you to the city council gang of 5. And my question is, when it comes to trust, how are you telling people, hey, you can trust me? Yeah,
for sure. So and he knows this, I don't trade my stocks. I don't have anything to do with my stock trades. And so when we found out, it was when we were going to disclose all of our financial information, which you have to do every year, which I do every year, despite what he said, we disclosed all of the stock trades. We're now sorting through whether or not to put it in a mutual fund or blind trust and follow the law that I've signed on to, which is that politicians should get out of the business of trading stocks altogether. I don't trade my stocks, but for the appearance, I believe everyone should get out of the business, and so I'm just going to go ahead and do it, whether the bill passes or not. Though I believe the bill should pass, and the only reason it hasn't is because of congressional leadership. They don't want to force members to put their stuff in a blind trust or a mutual fund. I obviously have built up a lot of trust here in Southwest Ohio. That's why I was overwhelmingly reelected to the city council, why I was elected to the United States Congress 2 years ago. People know me. I'm a big part of their lives. And I've been a big part of their lives for a long time, and that is something my opponent can't say. He does not live here, did not grow up here, and doesn't have a relationship with folks here. He doesn't have a relationship with people. You're from New Jersey. It's not. Yeah, I mean, it's fine.
Can I just address that? Because he had 30 seconds.
10 seconds, real quick. Then we have to go to closing.
Again, completely glossed over the Gang of Five. Didn't want to address that because he claims it happened 6 to 8 years ago. You have not forgotten the Gang of Five. The other thing, too, is this whole idea. He just proved the point here that the Federal Stock Act violation is true, and he just tried to defend himself. Here's the commitment I make tonight.
I can't do it, Mr.
Sansa. That when I get elected, I will not own a single stock in a corporation law, Congressman. He should make that same commitment here tonight.
Sure, 100%.
We agreed on rules. Listen, I got to tell you that this is the politics I grew up with. I appreciate your professionalism, duking it out here, showing up here, not being afraid to show up here. So thank you to both of you.